Alhai. The Kingdom of Bhutan, the state in the southern Asia located between India and the People's Republic of China. The capital, the city of Thimphu. The self-named Dracul, the country of the dragon. Butane, also historical name of the adjacent territory in India in the state of West Bengal with the center in Kalimpong. This territory was torn away by British from Bhutan in the 19th century as a result of the conflicts. In the north borders on the People's Republic of China, in the west on the Indian state of Sikkim. Till 1975, the former independent kingdom. In the east, on the state of Arunachal Pradesh, in the south, on the state of Assam in which long-term civil war is waged, in the southwest, on West Bengal. The national name of the country of Dracul, the country of a dragon, obviously, reflects the ancient cult of a dragon, known at the people of the East, as deities of water and the patron of agriculture. The name Bhutan and to where Bod, Tibet, considered by Bod formed as a result of addition of the Tibetan bases, and Anta, and outskirts, that is, the outskirts of Tibet. This name in the form of Bhutan is acquired by Hindi, Dintfal. Bengali also is used as the name actually of Tibet. Though according to archaeological data Bhutan was inhabited in the 2 millennium BB, there are almost no written certificates on ancient times. The history of the country is known mainly for episodes for the reason that in 1827 the largest library in the capital of Bhutan of the time of Puna burned down. Historical events are now inseparable from legends. Apparently, the Buddhism got into Bhutan in the 2nd century. Also the king of Tibet Sonsen Gampo. 627-649. On legends, built in the territory of Bhutan 2 monasteries. Pichu Lakang in Paro and Damabi Lakang in Bumtange, which remain still and are the most important places of a pilgrimage. Chronicles in detail describe several visits of a legendary Buddhist yogin of Padmasambhava to Bhutan in the 8th century. The monastery Taktsang Lakang. Den of a tigress, in which the main caves of meditation of Padmasambhava near Paro are located. Later in Tibet the Island Dharma. 836-842. Who forbade the Buddhism and cruelly pursuing Buddhist monks began to rule. Escaping from prosecutions, many monks and scientists found a shelter in Bhutan. The Bhutan Buddhism of Drukgyal originates from a Lama of Tsanggyar Esh Dordzhi who based on Tibet the monastery Druk Dragon in the city of Ralung. This school became stronger on the outskirts of Tibet, in Ladakh and in Bhutan. The big role in development of the Bhutan Buddhism was played also by Pemalingpa representing the Nyingma school. The Tibetan monk and the artist Navang Namgyal. 1594-1651. Became a king in 1616. He could unite Bhutan and organized everywhere construction of the strengthened fortresses. Those conceding in defense capability and less to the Potala Palace in Lhasa. After death of Shabranga Bhutan plunged into civil war which was almost not interrupted within 200 years. In the course of expansion Bhutan occupied approaches to the Brahmaputra River in Assam and Bengal. Doors. British actively interfered with the intra-Bhutan conflicts. A relationship of Bhutan with England was difficult, with the variable periods of the unions and the conflicts. As a result, Bhutan lost Dwara and the considerable territory in the south. So-called British Bhutan in the state of Assam in modern India, with the capital in the city of Kalimpong. Again, the King Ujung Wonhuk, who founded a new dynasty in 1907, could unite and strengthen Bhutan, which governs still. In the past, Ujung Wonhuk participated in joint operations with British, and in 1910 the first king of a new dynasty made the peace with England, having recognized a suzerainty relationship in exchange for full autonomy and non-interference of England to internal affairs of Bhutan. From now on, the period of isolation of Bhutan, during which Bhutan managed to avoid participation in 2 world wars, begins. After declaration of independence of India in 1947, Bhutan became independent too. However, because of isolation, Bhutan wasn't presented to the Union and the international organizations, and mistakenly was considered by the international community as the Indian Dominion. Later, Bhutan had to fight for the accession to the Union and to prove the legal independence. The third king of a new dynasty, Jigme Dorji Wonhuk, who entered on a throne in 1952, began policy of gradual modernization. The Chinese invasion into Tibet forced Bhutan to sign a pact with India on protection of Bhutan against the Chinese invasion, and still safety of Bhutan is guaranteed by the Indian troops. Jigme Dorji entered trade to specify and intensified monetary circulation in the country. Only in 1971 Bhutan entered the Union. The fourth king of a dynasty, Jigme Wonhuk, entered on a throne in 1972 and undertook a number of reforms. To Bhutan, foreign journalists and tourists began to be allowed in limited quantity. The king tried to provide the country with infrastructure. Electricity, a telephone and radio communication, roads. Minimum mentioning the environment. In 1998 the king delegated executive power to the cabinet, having provided removability and rotation of the high-ranking officials. In 2002 in Bhutan the national television was created. Before, the television was forbidden. Well-being of nation raises gradually, improved and modernized infrastructure. Nevertheless, Bhutan strong sticks to traditions. On December 14, 2006, the fourth king of Bhutan, Jigme Wonhuk, River of 1955, abdicated in favor of the son, Jigme Namgyala. 1980. In the northwest and the north, the territory of Bhutan is bordered with Big East Himalayas. More than 50% of lands are located higher than 3000 m, 20% are covered with glaciers and eternal snow. From the south, the internal Himalayas, a labyrinth of meridional cross ridges with wide mountain valleys which in the south pass into fertile plains adjoining to the Big Himalayas. In Bhutan there are earthquakes. From the Himalayas the rapids and rough rivers, inflows of Brahmaputra, flow down on the south. Bhutan possesses large hydroenergy resources and also considerable reserves of minerals, iron ore, copper, lead, zinc, coal, marble, etc. Extent of border with China in the north and the northwest is 470 km. Extent of border with India. With the state of Sikkim in the west, West Bengal in the southwest, Assam in the south and the southeast, and Arunachal Pradesh. Before the Northeast Boundary Agency. In the east is 605 km. The Indian state of Sikkim. The territory 88 km wide. Separates Bhutan from Nepal, and the Indian state of West Bengal from the Republic of Bangladesh. And distance from Bhutan to Bangladesh of only 60 km. Distance between eastern and western frontier of Bhutan -300 km, between northern and southern -170 km. The area of the state -km. 1/3 of the area of Nepal. In the mid-80s about 70% of the territory were covered with the woods, 10% year-round snow and glaciers, nearly 6% constantly were cultivated or engaged in settlements, 3% were temporarily cultivated and 5% were engaged in meadows and pastures. Other territory, the rocky area on which cultivation of agricultural plants is impossible. The first British who visited Bhutan told. Dark and narrow mountain valleys, the tops of mountains mislaid in clouds create a landscape of exclusive luxury and grandeur. The territory of the country, one of the most difficult mountain terrains of the world, which height changes from 160 to 700 m above sea level. The highest point of Bhutan, the mountain Kulakangri 7554 m high, is in the north of the country on border with China. The second highest point, Jamamulkari 7314 m high, is at the valley Chumbi. In the country there are 19 mountain peaks exceeding height in 700 m. In the north of the Bhutan-Chinese border, snow-covered Himalaya peaks more than 7,500 m high, at which tops the Arctic climate dominates tower. The water of the mountain rivers formed as a result of thawing of glaciers, and valleys in this region create ideal conditions for cattle divorced by rare local population. Chorni Range in the central part of Bhutan forms a natural watershed between two main river systems of the country, Mochu and Drangchu. Height of mountaintops of Chorni Range -1500, 2700 m above sea level, and the rough mountain rivers formed mountain gorges. The wood in the central part of Bhutan, the huge value of the country. East Bhutan is divided by the southern tops of the mountain system of Dong. In the western part of Bhutan there are fertile cultivated valleys and reservoirs of the country. The height Sivalik, Bayou or Chorni Range, the foothills of the Himalayas, is covered with forests, alluvial river valleys and mountains up to 1500 m high above sea level. The height goes down to subtropical plains to Dwara. The most part of this plain lies in India, but she gets in Bhutan on 15 km. Plains of Dwara in Bhutan consist of two parts. A northern part, the cross-country terrain with the dry porous earth and plentiful vegetation. The southern part, the fertile lands overgrown with high herbs and the extensive jungle. Only plain rice and other grain crops is grown up. The most important commercial centers of the country, Tupungkoling, Galip and Samtrapankar, are on plains, Dwara. Here tigers, leopards, elephants and other animals live. The climate and vegetation in the country depend on area height. Monsoonal mountain and tropical and damp in the internal Himalayas, cold and mountainous in the big Himalayas. In the period of monsoons, heavy rains cause floods and an erosion. On plains, evergreen and tropical forests, above subtropical, from 1800 to 3500 m, mixed and coniferous grow. Further, subalpine. The national flower, blue poppy meets. Is even higher, the alpine meadows, and after 5500 m, eternal snow and glaciers. The climate of Bhutan varies depending on height of the area and, as well as on the most part of Asia, is under the influence of monsoons. In the western part of the country, because of monsoonal winds, 60–80% of all rainfall of the country drop out. Climate damp and subtropical on the southern plains and the foothills. In the Himalaya valleys of the southern and central districts, a temperate climate. In the north of the country, cold with year-round snow at the Himalaya tops. Temperature depends on height. So temperature in Thimphu, which is at the height of 2200 m above sea level in the western part of the country, in June-September is 15–26 C, but in January goes down to 4 C, and sometimes into 16 C. The central part of the country is zone of a cool temperate climate. In the south of the country, because of roast, a humid climate, year-round temperature is +15–30 C. At the same time, temperature in valleys reaches in the summer sometimes +40 C. Annual level of rainfall depends on the area. So in the northern part of Bhutan in a year only 40 mm of rainfall, generally in the form of snow, drop out. In the central region with a temperate climate, the annual level of rainfall is about 1000 mm. In the south, in a zone of subtropics, about 700–800 mm a year drop out. From December to February, the dry winter period lasting till March, when 20 mm of rainfall a month drop out. In August, the level of rainfall reaches 650 mm. The spring in Bhutan lasts since March to the middle of April. Summer days begin in the middle of April, when seldom there are rains. A season of monsoonal rains from the southwest, July–September. High level of rainfall in the south of the country is explained by the fact that monsoons are late the Himalayas. The fall lasts since the end of September until the end of October–November. From November to March, the frosty and snow winter lasts. At the height from 3000 m. In Bhutan, 4 main river systems. To Drangma, Sankesh, Apunt-sang, Vangchuan, Achincha, Anamo. All of them originate in the Himalayas, and then, proceeding in the southern direction through valleys of Dwara, fall into the Brahmaputra River, which, in turn, flows into Ganges. The longest river system in Bhutan, Drangma, flows to the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. Near valleys of Dura, where all 8 inflows of this river meet, to Drangma carries the name Manas. The 320-kilometer Punitsang River, or Sankesh, often leaves the coast, as well as the Asari and Po rivers D, which formed it, in which the water formed of the Himalaya snow flows. A flow in the southern direction to the city of Punakha, where connect, forming the Punitsang River, which, in turn, flows on the south to the Indian state of West Bengal. Numerous inflows of the Vangchu River, 370 km long, originate in Tibet. The Vangchu River flows on the southeast through the western part of Bhutan and further passes through Dwara. Here it flows to the Indian state of West Bengal. The smallest river system of the country, the Torso, known as Almo in a northern part, also originates in Tibet and flows to India. Glaciers in northern Bhutan, which occupy 10% of all territory of the country, are an important source of water in the rivers of Bhutan. These glaciers comprise millions of tons of fresh water, and during summer thawing often become disaster for the population. Butane, the underdeveloped agrarian state. since 1971, and as of 2018, Bhutan is among the least developed countries of the world. The basis of the economy of Bhutan is made forest, also by agriculture, tourism, sale of stamps. In small mines in the south extract plaster, limestone, dolomite, coal, marble, slate. Are developed the logging, woodworking, cement and food industry. In the territory of the country, rice, corn, root crops, citrus fruit, fodder crops, sorghum, mushrooms are grown up. In Bhutan there is a dairy livestock production, poultry farming. On extensive mountain pastures, distant pasture cattle breeding. Cultivation of yaks, goats and zoo. A hybrid of yaks with cows. In valleys, inhabitants are engaged in gardening. Domestic industries. Production of Buddhist ritual products from brass, bamboo, woolen and cotton fabrics, carpets, stamping on silver and copper, wood carving. Weaknesses. In many industries of the public sector, from road construction before education, it is necessary to use the Indian labor. Most of the population lives agriculture. Because of abrupt hillsides, only small acreage is cultivated. The industry is almost absent. Few natural resources. Butane, the agrarian country. For more than 80% of the population, rural and forestry is the main source of income. Besides, the government actively cares for the environment. A half of the territory of Bhutan is announced by national parks in which, for example, hunting is forbidden. For this reason, development of the industry isn't in the plans of the Bhutan authorities. In the kingdom there are practically no large industrial enterprises. There are several enterprises of the woodworking and food industry, including, according to the license, Coca-Cola is produced. The main export goods is ecological rice, fruit and the electric power developed by hydroelectric power stations. Almost all foreign trade of Bhutan is focused on India, and in the old years the share of New Delhi grew. If in 2005 69.3% of export of Thimphu and 75.3% of import were the share of India, then in 2010 these indicators were 82.4% and 75.1%. There are practically no trade relations with China in spite of the fact that Bhutan borders on Tibet. It is interesting that today first place in national economy is won by hydropower. The main income is export of the electric power to the neighboring India, and income from export of agricultural products is on the second place only. Monetary unit Ngultram. The course is tied to Indian rupee, which is also announced by a lawful means of payment in all territory of Bhutan. At the rate for November 14, 2006, $1 dollar cost 44.42 Ngultram, 1 ruble minus 1.67 Ngultram. For December 1, 2013, 1 ruble is equal 1.88 Ngultram. For October 5, 2021, ruble is equal 0.94 Ngultram. Inflation in 2003 was 3%. The tax assesses only income more than card Ngultram a year. The DD of Bhutan in 2012 was $4.646 billion. The government of Bhutan officially doesn't consider DDD as a criterion of development of economy, and is guided by an indicator of gross national happiness. Gross national happiness. Gross national happiness is considered as a key element of construction of economy which would be coordinated with Buddhist cultural wealth. Despite everything, the government of the country treats this indicator quite pragmatically. Several times in Bhutan, the international conferences to which many Western economists, including Nobel laureates on economy, for the purpose of development of method of calculation of VNNs on the basis of a combination of an economic situation in the country and satisfaction with population life were held. In Bhutan there is practically no corruption. In the rating of Transparency International of 2006, Bhutan takes the 32nd place in the world on corruption level, conceding in Asia only to Singapore, Hong Kong, Macau and the UAE. According to official statistics, in the kingdom of 40.07 kilometers of roads and 426 bridges. In 2003, 250,000 vehicles were registered. There are no railroads in the country, but there is a construction plan of the railroad developed together with the Indian railroads in the southern part of the country for inclusion of Bhutan in the Indian railway system. It is planned to bring 3 branch lines to the Bhutan border cities across the Indian territory from states Assam and West Bengal. The only international airport of Paro, Bai, at which takeoff and landing are considered as some of the most difficult in the world, is in the city of the same name. Near Trashiganga in the east of the country, the local airport is open. The system of the small airports through the whole country is developed. His history began in 1974 when the government of Bhutan, for increase in income of the population and also to show unique culture and traditions of the country to the outside world, opened her for foreigners. Before it was possible to get to the country only by the personal invitation of the king or queen. In 1974, Bhutan was visited by 287 tourists. Since then, the number of the tourists visiting the country annually sharply increased of 2,850 in 1992 up to 7,158 in 1999. By the end of the 1980th years, tourism yielded to the country more than $2 million revenue. Opening the country for foreigners, the government realized that tourists can influence destructively unique and almost untouched landscapes of Bhutan and his original culture. Therefore, it initially limited tourist activity, giving preference to tourism of the superior quality. Since 1991, the Bhutan Tourist Corporation, the quasi-autonomous and self-financed organization realizing the policy of the government in the field of tourism works. The Bhutan government, nevertheless, privatized corporation in October 1991, promoting private investments and activity. As a result, more than 75 licensed travel agencies work in the country now. Each tourist has to pay quite high duty for each day of stay in the country. The number of the tourists driving to the country isn't limited and is defined by the number of places in hotels. The most important centers of tourism are the capital of Bhutan of Thimphu, the city of Paro in the west of the country, near India. The main tourist attraction of the country is the monastery Taksanglakhang. The main airline to which flights to Bhutan are allowed is Truk Air. Except in Paro, the Nepalese airline Buddha Air has the license for implementation of flights. According to the article of the first constitution of Bhutan, the supreme power belongs to the people, and the form of government is democratic constitutional monarchy. The constitution is announced by the supreme law, and functions of the constitutional court are assigned to the Supreme Court of Bhutan. English: the Supreme Court. Division of executive, legislative and judicial authority is declared. The head of state and the supreme commander is the King of Bhutan. The legislature belongs to Parliament of Bhutan, consists of the King of Bhutan, National Council of Bhutan and National Assembly of Bhutan. Judicial authority in Bhutan is assigned to royal courts as a part of the Supreme Court, vessels of Jongkag, vessels of Dainkag, and also courts and tribunals which can be temporarily founded by the king according to the recommendation of the National Judicial Commission. In Bhutan, the fifth king Jigme Namgyal Wangchuk is crowned. On November 6, 2008, the Department of Information and the Press of the Bhutan government reported about it. Transition of Bhutan from absolute monarchy to constitutional was initiated by Jigme Wangchuk and came to the end in 2008 with national election of deputies of parliament who received large powers on formation of the government. The young king waited for a crowning 2 years. The ceremony took place in the throne room of the capital palace, which is turned from the royal residence to the government house. The fourth king of Bhutan, under blows of a gong, gave to the son a crown. Then the king was handed a traditional scarf which has symbolical value. On October 13, 2011, the king of Bhutan Jigme Namgyal Wangchuk married on Jetson Pema. Royal Government of Bhutan. Lenni Jungturk. Till 1999 was under the leadership of the King of Bhutan. As an important step towards democratization, the king in 1999 dismissed the existing cabinet and departed from a management of the government. 6 new ministers who were approved by National Assembly were appointed. From this group of ministers, vote in National Assembly elected the chairman. The Prime Minister subsequently. Now the government consists of 10 ministers who are called English Lion Pose, and they wear an orange ceremonial scarf of a kana. The Prime Minister is elected serially from among members of the government for a period of 1 year. In the Kingdom of Bhutan, the elections to the lower house of parliament, first in the history, began on March 24, 2008. Polling precincts opened. In 2007, the King of Bhutan Jigme Wangchuk voluntarily handed over the reins to the son who got an education in the West, and Bhutan began transition to democracy. In the spring of 2007 in the country there took place the training elections directed to visually to show to Bhutanese electoral process. On the inhabitants of the kingdom it is almost universal supported the monarchy. Thus, if elections took place actually, then the party of a yellow fire drake, who personifies autocracy, would receive 46 of 47 seats in parliament. The majority of Bhutanese is afraid of democracy as consider it the instability reason in the neighboring Nepal and Bangladesh, observers note. According to Economist Intelligence Unit, the country in 2018 was classified under the Index of Democracy as the hybrid mode. Bhutan began the international activity in 1962 when joined the Plan Colombo. In 1969 Bhutan joined the Specialized Organization Union to Universal Postal Union. See History of Mail and Stamps of Bhutan. On September 21, 1971 I entered the Union. The decision was adopted at the 26th session of the United Nations General Assembly. At the 1934th plenary session. On the basis of the resolution of the Union Security Council No. 292 on inclusion of Bhutan in the Union. Though I had no diplomatic relations with one of member states of the Union Security Council. In 1981 Bhutan became the member of the IMF and World Bank, in 1982, WHO and UNESCO, in 1985 COC. Now Bhutan is a member of 45 international organizations. Bhutan maintains diplomatic relations with the Russian Federation through the Embassy of Russia located in New Delhi. The Kingdom of Bhutan has only 6 embassies worldwide. In Bangladesh, Kuwait, Thailand, Switzerland, the USA and India. Armed forces of Bhutan consist of Royal Bhutan Army, Royal Bodyguards, a militia and Royal Bhutan Police. As Bhutan has no outlet to the sea, he has no navy. Are absent at Bhutan and the Air Force though the Royal Bhutan Army and has small aviation divisions which aren't intended for fight and perform only transport functions. Training of troops, supply and air defense of Bhutan are carried out by India. The Royal Bhutan Army (RB) is the part of armed forces of Bhutan answering, according to Article 27 of the Constitution of Bhutan, for maintenance of territorial integrity of the country and protection of the state sovereignty in case of external threats. The Commander-in-Chief of RB is the King of Bhutan. It is accepted, though it isn't obligatory, that one son from each Bhutan family did military service. In case of need the national militia can gather. The Royal Bhutan Police (RO) are the independent division of Royal Bhutan Army which is responsible for maintenance of legality and law and order and crime prevention. The Chief of Police is Maxigam Pokanik Kipchunamjal. Royal Bodyguards of Bhutan, the independent division of Royal Bhutan Army which is responsible for protection of the king and acts of his family. The most prepared and is the most bestly armed division of army. Number more than 1,000 people. Royal Bodyguards proved the high level of readiness in 2003 during defeat of camps of Assamese separatists. Bodyguards went in the forefront attacking, but didn't suffer any losses. Also the King Jigme Wanghuk who was personally involved in fights didn't suffer. Butane is divided into 4 Dungdia, which part 20 Jonkagar. Everyone in turn is divided into Gavik, which are sometimes united in Dunkik. In 1988 Jonkag of Bhutan were united in 4 Dungdia for creation of an intermediate link of management between Jonkaga and the state. According to the last census undertaken in 2005, the population of Bhutan made people. At the same time the question of population of the country is very disputable as data of a government census cardinally dispersed from the estimates of the Union and CIA considering that 3 times more people live in the country at least. However, neither the Union nor CIA can provide the description of methodology of assessment of population in the kingdom. Information of 2004, according to which the population of Bhutan made people is provided on the official portal of the government of Bhutan. By estimates of the international organization's population density makes 45 people on km. If to calculate density according to official statistics, it will turn out that about 14 inhabitants are the share of each square kilometer. Such calculation will automatically put the country on population density on one level with Argentina or Sudan, approximately on the 195th place. Growth of the population minus 2.11% a year. According to an official census, the population of the country decreases rather than increases. Urban population minus 21%, country people minus 79%. Khatia, the main ethnic group of Bhutan, making a half of the population. Drukpas, the cattle farmers living at the height from 3,500 m of Druk graze herds of yaks in exchange to Ayutthaya milk, cheese, wool and meat for the goods made in a midland. In Bhutan also insignificant number of the Tibetan refugees is concentrated. Today their quantity is estimated as people. In total there are 25 languages of Bhutan. Official language in the country is Dzongkha. To Khatia are spoken various Tibetan dialects, by Nepalese, respectively the Nepalese dialects. In the west of the country Dzongkha language, in the east, a set of East Bhutan languages concerning which there is no accurate classification prevails. The main of them, a Tsangal, a Dalakir, a Kengakir, a Bumtangakir. Besides there are about 10 languages which speak various immigrant groups in Bhutan. From them Assamese is most presented, in it about 109,000 immigrants speak. The others are among a Bantava, 19200, East, 21300, East to Hindi, 31900, A Lim, 63500, Santat, 13600, Western, 43300. The Drukpa Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism as official religion covers 70% of the population of the country. In Bhutan the Buddhist Nyingma school and Bon, mainly are also widespread in east part of the country. In the south of the country the Hinduism, 25% of the population, is widespread, 5% of Bhutanese practice Islam. Ethnic Agalopa, descendants of the Tibetan immigrants, make most of the population of the western and central parts of the country and generally follow Drukpa Kagyu school, following a transmission line from Pemakarpo and Shabranga. The Nyingma school is more widespread in east and central Bhutan. It is represented first of all by Pemalingpa. Ethnic Sharkopa, possible descendants of the initial population of Bhutan, live in the east. Some Sharkopa practice the Buddhism integrated with elements of tradition of bonds while the others practice animism and Hinduism. The government supports monasteries of both traditions of the Buddhism, both Drukpa Kagyu and Nyingma. The Imperial Sword of Bhutan practices a combination of these two currents, and many residents of the country believe in the concept Kanyan Shungral that Kagyu and Nyingma same means. Padmasamkava is deeply esteemed. The Hindus living in the south of Bhutan profess Shaivism, Vaishnava, Shaktism, Ganapat and other currents. Hindu temples exist in Thimphu and the southern regions of the country. The Czech, the animistic and shamanistic system of beliefs, rotates around a cult of the nature and preceded the Buddhism. Though priests of Bon often participate in Buddhist holidays and even include in them rituals of the tradition, nevertheless very few inhabitants completely adhere to this religious system. The Czech is most distributed in East Bhutan. According to different data, from 9 to 19,000 Christians live in the country. The largest Christian faiths of the country are Pentecostals and Harismata. 5,000 in 2001. In Bhutan, communities of evangelical Christians, Catholics, Lutherans and parishes of Church of Northern India also act. Christians are present at all territory of Bhutan, however most of them is concentrated in the large cities and in the south of the country, along border with India. Christian families and certain believers spend the ceremonies at home. The modern culture of Bhutan traces the roots back to antiquity. Surrounded with the Himalayas, it, thanks to the geographical isolation, was protected from external cultural influences. Its sparsely populated country bordering on India in the south and China in the north, long adhered to policy of full isolation, both cultural and economic, with the purpose to keep the cultural heritage in independence. Only in the last decades of the 20th century it became authorized to foreigners to visit the country, though in limited quantity. Thus, Bhutan managed to keep many parties of the culture well. Art of Bhutan is similar to the Tibetan art. Both are based on Tibetan Buddhism, with his pantheon of various divine beings. The main directions of the Buddhism in Bhutan are Drukpa Kajayu and Nyingma. The first is a branch of school of Kajayu, and it is known the pictures which depicted generations of Buddhist teachers and 70 Khenpo. The Nyingma direction is known Padmasambhava's images, which contacts introduction of the Buddhism in Bhutan in the 7th century. According to a legend, Padmasambhava hid sacred treasures that future masters of the Buddhism found them. Seekers of treasures, Tertona, often meet as heroes of art of Nyingma. Special forms, colors and also the object serving identification marks of these beings are allocated for each divine being. A lotus, a sink, a lightning, a bow for arms. All these sacred images are made according to the strict canons, remaining invariable the whole centuries. Art of Bhutan is especially rich in bronze products of different types, which are known under the general name Kamso. Made in Kam. Even if they are created in Bhutan, because technology of their production is initially introduced from east part of Tibet under the name Kam here. Wall painting and a sculpture reflect the main and ageless principles of these types of Buddhist art in this region. Though their attention to details goes from the Tibetan samples, their sources can be defined undoubtedly, despite richly embroidered attires and bright jewelry which generously covered these figures. In the fancy world of demons, artists probably had more freedom in actions than during creation of images of divine beings. All citizens of Bhutan are obliged to observe the national dress code known as Triglam Namsa while are on public during daylight hours. Requirements in some districts, Zhongkag, are more strict than in the others. Men carry a heavy dressing gown length to knees which is girded. Women wear colorful blouses over which put on the big rectangular piece of fabric called kira. Over saris the short silk jacket or a tie can be worn. Daily and kira are made of cotton or wool seasonally and are decorated with simple patterns in the form of strips and cages. In special cases and on holidays can rush brightly painted silk kira and is much more rare. Additional restrictions arise at visit of a doza the temple and also at a visit to the higher-ranking official. Men from simple segments of the population wear the white scarf, hadn, which is hanging down from the left shoulder to the right hip. Collar of a kana, wearable as well other representatives of male population of Bhutan in general depends on a carrier rank. Women carry a raka, the narrow embroidered pieces of fabric thrown through the left shoulder. These rules encounter some resistance from the ethnic Nepalese living along border with India and not persons interested to wear clothes of other culture. At the heart of Bhutan cuisine, rice, vegetables, and a lot of hot pepper. Since recent time, corn. In cold season, the Bhutan cuisine is more reoriented on meat. Cottage cheese with a mold. Among popular local drinks it should be noted Oli Shiringma tea, rice beer and homemade tinctures. Macaw. Reminding sometimes rice vodka and sometimes whiskey. Here import of chemical fertilizers and everything that grows on this earth is forbidden in itself is environmentally friendly. Generally in Bhutan religious Buddhist holidays, significant dates and public holidays. A crowning of the first Druk Gwalpo, the Independence Day. And also various festivals are widely celebrated. As Western the first king of Bhutan Ajahn Wanghuk began to enter education. 1907-26. Till 1950 there were only 2 secular schools in Ha and in Bumtange, generally Buddhist monasteries managed education. After 1950 secular schools, as in a private order and sponsored by the state began to appear. For the end of the 50th years there were 29 elementary public schools and 30 private in which 2,500 children studied. Secondary education could be got only in India. Now basic training is defined as 10 years and full training takes 13 years. Year of a preparatory class. D. 6 years of elementary school. Ps. 2 years of high school of the younger level. Else. And 2 years of high school of the average level. Ms. And 2 years at high school of the senior level. SS. The beginning of training in 6 years. After 8, 10 and 12 classes examinations are taken. Statistics shows that 87% which graduated elementary school go further to study to average. 95% which were admitted to average or graduate from schools, having got basic education. 40% of the pupils who showed high progress get to the high school, another 25% continue training at private high school. After the termination of high school, the pupils who showed the best progress continue to study abroad. School education is free. However, parents incur small expenses on improvement of school, purchase of a form journey. Sometimes parents are forced to take away children from school for economic reasons. As of 2008, according to the official page of the Ministry of Education of Bhutan. In Bhutan is available 266 public elementary schools, CPS, 94 elementary schools, Ps, 91 high schools of the younger level, else, 45 high schools of the average level, EMS, 32 high schools of the senior level, SS. In addition, there are private schools which are obliged to conform to requirements of the Ministry of Education. In total in the country more than 500 schools. On 2004 primary education was got by 84.3% of children that year at schools, people studied, the coverage at the same time constantly grew at schools. 31 pupils fell on one teacher on average. Architecture, as well as all art of Bhutan, it was formed and improved under noticeable influence of Tibetan Buddhism. The most widespread type of cult constructions is those appeared in the 17th century, represent stone monasteries, fortresses. In an internal part of a dose there is a square or rectangular yard with a 3-level tower. Around the yard temples and office buildings are located. As examples, it is possible to give Drugil dose in the city of Paro, Punaka dose in the city of Punaka. Finishing of temple constructions is laconic. The strips made by red paint and ornaments of gold around door portals and at edges of walls are characteristic of it. Those are used as military strengthenings, monasteries, the universities, control centers and the cultural centers. In Danzanga annual religious holidays to a siege are spent. The national traditions noticeable in building of the city of Thimphu are characteristic of civil architecture of Bhutan. Till 2006 in the country the only government newspaper Council was issued. Council leaves with frequency 2 times a week in 3 official languages. The Zonke English also didn't fall. In April 2006 the state allowed to issue the first private newspaper in the country of Bhutan Times. On October 30, 2008 the country's first daily newspaper, Bhutan Today, is published. In 1973 on shortwaves there began broadcasting the Bhutan Broadcasting Service. Bhutan Broadcasting Service. In the capital broadcasting is conducted at FM frequencies. Bhutan was the country, last on the planet, which began telecasting. It happened only in 1999. Soon after that in the country also the cable television appeared. As a part of the royal program of modernization. Before Bhutanets were content with private video halls. In Bhutan 109 post offices, about 150,000 internet users, 33729 telephone subscribers. Official data of 2003. And 230,000 subscribers of mobile communication. Interesting facts. Since December 17, 2004 in Bhutan the total ban for sale and the use of tobacco is entered. Cigarettes can't be imported into borders of the country. In 18 of 20 Jonkide this will lock worked earlier. The penalty for smoking makes Euro 175. Besides, the tax in 100% to which all tobacco products imported into Bhutan by his citizens for the personal use are assessed is imposed. The ban doesn't extend to foreign tourists, diplomats and the staff of non-governmental organizations. But severe punishment of foreigners who will sell tobacco to locals is prescribed. The ban on smoking in public places for the first time was entered in the middle of the 17th century by the founder of the modern state. Butane, the only thing in the world the state whose official religion, spiritual heritage, proclaimed Tantric Buddhism. Therefore the main goal the government announces aspiration fortunately of each citizen. It is enshrined in the article of the 9th Constitution. 24.08. 2008 The State Commission on General National Happiness. Gross National Happiness Commission. Headed by the Prime Minister is created. The 22nd question, whether you are happy, is set during the population censuses. During the last census of 2005, 45.2% of the population answered this question, I am very happy, 51.6% are happy, and only 3.3% aren't really happy. What is curious, the standard concept of gross domestic product is replaced in Bhutan with more appropriate indicator, gross national happiness. This only state in the world in which there is a Ministry of Happiness. Thus, happiness is regarded as of paramount importance national policy. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.